Tonight, we find a way.
And they knocked off Colquitt County to be the 7A champs in Georgia in
We're going
2018.
to attack them like they've never been attacked. I appreciate you guys being in. I'm excited to do this. Just a little backstory of kind of where some of this came about. Teaching football IQ, football one-on-one, whatever you want to call it, is something that's always been important to me. I mean, you don't have to be a very good football coach to understand that that's important. The hard part is, with so much stuff that we do and, kind of taking just thinking back on my interactions with a lot of you guys, and it's just like us coaches most of the time. We want to get to the scheme, man. We can't wait to start talking about the plays and putting in the playbook and all that stuff. But what I always found is, we'd rush into that stuff, and as we're teaching scheme, we're trying to teach other fundamental aspects of universal truths of football. That's what I'll keep using, this term of universal truths of football. Things that don't change, things that everybody is going to need to understand and digest to some form. Again, there could be O-linemen sitting in here, it could be quarterbacks, could be linebackers, running backs, whatever. I truly believe, even if just from a casual viewer of football, it's good to understand the language, and I keep using this term, universal. And I'm using that on purpose because I don't want you to think necessarily this is exactly what we're going to call things with Parkview. If I happen to be teaching this and there'll be people from other teams. Again, these are things that we can apply to whatever we teach. We can easily convert. But what you'll find, in football a lot of times is we all learn from different people. We learn at different times, at different eras of the game, and the verbiage will kind of get convoluted. Me and Coach Goodwell were talking the other day, and we were talking about palms, which is a type of coverage, and kind of the way he was taught it and the way I was taught it were kind of two different things, not one being right or wrong, but we weren't talking the same language. So I want to use a lot of what I keep saying, universal language. Again, the more common, way that people across the industry will talk about this. I see this as being kind of a 3-part series, with this month being part 1. All right, so there'll be a lot that we'll unpack in this, but everything we do will build upon it. We'll take little different paths. Where this series of talks will be a lot more about coverage, looking at it from the passing game, which, if I'm a lineman, I'm like, well, why is that important? Well, it most certainly can be important to you because everything ties together. This is going to be seen more from the offensive eyes, even though we'll talk a lot more about defense. Well, why is this important to the defense? Well, you're going to understand how the offense should be looking to attack you. So you're going to learn where your strengths and weaknesses are out of these base coverages. I'm going to use this term, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now. On the term baseline, all right? Want to keep things very general. There's nothing that we'll talk about that will really be controversial, but there's exceptions to every single thing that you talk about. So do yourself a favor and me as we go through this and just take in the information and learn it as, okay, this is just a starting point. Obviously, there's exceptions to rules. Obviously, there's adjustments, there's nuance. Everything will do, but this will be a great starting point for you to start building your other knowledge on top of as we start applying playbooks, as we start applying schemes. It won't matter if you're playing for Parkview, if you're playing for Mountain Park, or if you're playing for Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, this stuff will apply. So that's kind of where we're going with this. I appreciate you guys being in, and I will record all these and house them in the Google Classroom for guys who miss or for guys who I hope go back and revisit this, because none of this is we teach it once and it's done. Okay, it's a lot like a callus. We got to keep washing over it, washing over it, washing over it. I love that saying. We're going to do it so much now that we get it right. We're going to do it so much that we can't get it wrong. We're going to become fluent in this language, okay, so that we don't have to convert things in our head. We know instantly, and we can apply it to different things. So just a quick story about what the pictures are here. All right, so again, this was something really that I set out to do every offseason, and inevitably I would get sidetracked and not finish it. But I was just trying to build a base curriculum to work with you guys in January and February and early March that goes back and just teaches these things that we're going to talk about, the very basis of what we do. Because we need to always kind of start back over there. For me and for the coordinators, January, February, March, That's a lot of time for us to go out and professional develop, learn new things, experiment with new things, study new ideas. And we're also studying you. I want our schemes to be very adaptive. I mean, we're not just going to do one thing all the time and expect you to do that. We're going to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, how we mesh together collectively. So that's what we should be doing more so in January, February, and March, is really working on those basic foundation things, from the weight room to learning some more about ball, to those type of things. So there will be plenty of time for the schemes and whatnot to come. So excited about this. First talk, we're going to call it, where should the ball go and why? All right. So we're looking at this mainly from kind of pre-snap recognition of coverages, understanding the base route tree, taking it down to the granular level. But then the key piece that I want to get into that I think makes this really good, and that we'll build upon, is situational understanding and situational thinking. That truly sets smart football teams apart from very average ones. The guys on the right there, the Trent Dilfer QBIQ system. I was working with Coach Hickson, who's the man on the right. He's a trainer up here in Alpharetta. I think he's phenomenal. And he built this system basically as he was scratching professional status, played in the Arena League a long time, was a really, really good quarterback in his own right. Lacked some of the physical tools that really allowed him to play professionally. But what made him keep up was his ability to process and think. And as he was, building his academy, he was just getting really frustrated as he was working with young quarterbacks of, why are you going there with the football with what you saw pre-snap? And then he started thinking back on his teachings and kind of his maturation as a football player and a quarterback. He's like, well, nobody really taught me. I had to figure it out. And it took me, into my 20s, where it was trial and error. So what if we teach this better? And what he did is he built a curriculum, that's what I keep calling it. It's a lot like a history textbook. He didn't rewrite football. He just broke it down in very, very digestible doses. It's very, very smart in the way he sequenced it. And he really majored on the right things and cut out a lot of fluff and a lot of more advanced things as we're building this base level. And so I'm taking it and run with it. Some things I make my own, but I was teaching this for him over the last year and a half, 2 years, just like I'm teaching it to you guys now. So I love it. I believe in it. And it really kind of flipped the way that I'll forever go about installing offenses and teaching teams, where I was that guy that rushed too fast to build the house, to build the roof and the walls and put in the furniture. And I didn't put enough time into the foundation. So that's what we're going to do here. So here we go. All right. So we go and we start thinking, and again, he wrote this more for quarterbacks. And I told him from the jump, I was like, man, I think you misnamed it. You're calling it QB IQ. It's really just football IQ. And whether you're talking about a quarterback, a receiver, a left tackle, a safety, a linebacker, what do the greats have in common? All right. People come in all shapes and sizes, speeds, strengths. So it's not just some physical, tangible skill, but what you see about these great players, whether it's Ray Lewis, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Jerry Rice, any of those guys, is they go through a series of decision making. All right. And their decisions are influenced by these three things. They have a fundamental understanding of what is going to work on this play before the play happens, and why it's supposed to work that way. So they have that base level of understanding. They can look at their opposition and accurately diagnose pre-snap, what is this formation? What is this personnel grouping? What is this structure of the defense telling me? All right, which again goes back into what should work. All right. But then the third piece, and the piece that I think is so powerful and unlocks a lot of this stuff, it's not just about looking at, a coverage and knowing what routes will work, but it's when you have multiple right answers potentially. So you're using your application of situational understanding and awareness so that we can get to the best answer faster and more consistently. And you'll see that term and that phrase come up, because a lot of times you're going to be faced with multiple right answers. Multiple, hey, well, I saw this and that's why I did that. And it may have been a right answer, but it wasn't necessarily the best answer. And now it's one thing to get to that best answer, but we got to get there fast. We got to get there now. All right. And we need to get there more often than we don't. It needs to be repeatable. And we all understand how fast this game goes, and the higher levels you go, the faster it goes, especially post snap. So the time that we have is about that 15 seconds when that ball is spotted, the play is coming in, and we're looking out and we're seeing what the opposition is presenting us. And there's a lot of pieces that go into this. And again, we're going to be looking more at the coverage shells in this series. We'll look into the box in our next series, and then we'll look at deeper situational thinking in our third series. All right. So again, important. All right. What's the most important trait of elite players when we start thinking about this? I want you to think about that. Okay. What's the most important trait if we sum this up into one word? Got a little exercise for you. All right. I want all of you to take a second. And what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to start with that number 1 right here. I'm going to give you 20 seconds, and I want you in sequential order to start with that first number and work your way to the highest number you can get. So you can't go to 3 without going 2. You can't go to 4 without, can't go to 5 without seeing 4. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. I want all of you to participate because we're going to do this twice. All right. So we're going to go back here. So starting at 1, see how high you can get. Ready? Go. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. All right. A couple guys, write that number down, put it down somewhere so you remember it. Coach Mashburn, what'd you get to?
Got 29, Coach.
29. All right. Who else got to a number? Give me just about 2 more people. What'd you get to? 21.
I got 8, Coach.
That's all good. 8, 12, 11. Cool. All right. Now I'm going to give you some clues to what you're looking at. When you look at this screen again, we're going to play the same game. All right. I'm going to give you the same amount of time. Actually, I'm going to give you a little less time. All right. If you notice, there was a grid. All right. As you look at that, there's 4 boxes. All right. So I want you to use that grid, and then I'm going to give you another clue. These numbers go in grid order, so they work clockwise. So if 1 is in top right, 2 will be in bottom right, 3 will be in bottom left, 4 will be in top left. That's all the clues I'm going to give you. So it's gridded, and they go in order. All right. So I'm going to give you 15 seconds this time, and let's see what we get to. Ready, set, go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. How we do, Matt?
21.
21. Who got higher? 24, I see by Alex. 22, 16. What I imagine is a lot of you got higher. So what's the point of this silly exercise? What happens when I said, hey, find the numbers, and I gave you just a chaotic array of things on a sheet of paper? What did your brain start to do? Just try and take in all this information at one time. What you got, Rod? Coach Wyman? Yep. Eye coordination. Eye coordination is 1. Okay. But again, it's taking a lot of information, and it's just giving you some simple plans of how to process. Our brains work like that. Our brains are taking in a ton of things all at once, and they can get overwhelmed really quickly. All right. But if we give it some structure, if we give it some order, if we know what we're looking for and why, we can start to recognize patterns, we can start to make sense, and we can start to actually process accurately quicker. We can get to the right answer, to the best answer, faster, more consistently. So there's a word that you could say. If I knew that number 1 is in the top right, I could anticipate that 2 was in the bottom right, 3 was in the bottom left, 4 was in the top left, 5 in the top right, so on and so forth. So again, the big word I want you to think about, and the big thing that I believe, if we can get players playing with anticipation, it makes every other skill better. It can make you faster. It can make the quarterback's arm stronger. It can make you more accurate. It can make the receiver run crisper routes. Now, it doesn't necessarily do anything to your physical ability to do that, but the fact that you know where you're going, and why, and you can attack it confidently helps you be better in all those areas. So that's what we're going for here. We're building anticipation. We're building that confidence that we know what we're looking at, and we are confident in what's going to happen next. To be confident in what happens next. All right. Best duo of all time. There's a duo that ranks a close number 2 playing in the modern game that probably have very similar skill sets, or not skill sets, but have very similar mental capacity to these 2 guys. It was said that Jerry Rice thought that, Joe Montana knew where he was going with the ball pre-snap 98% of the time. Now, is that an accurate number? I don't know, but it means he knew more times than not. He knew exactly where that ball was going to go before it was snapped. And what I would say is there's a caveat to this. What made them so great is who also knew where that ball was going to go before it was snapped. Jerry. All right. And so this is why it's so important. And it's not just a quarterback's class. It is important that we all are on the same page and we can all run our routes and do our assignments more confidently. If I know the ball's not coming to me, that doesn't mean, I don't give effort. That means I got to understand that it's important for me to run this route at full speed and get to this area to open up the person and occupy the defense of the defender so that the ball can go where it's supposed to go. Conversely, if I'm on the other side of the ball, how awesome is it if I got the keys if I got the answers to the test, if I know where you're going to try and attack me, now this gives me the ability to play faster to that spot or to even disguise, as we'll get deeper into this, and bait you into doing these things. And that's where the chess match comes. The thing is we can't just learn schemes and expect to do that. We've got to learn all the fundamental building blocks, and we can't skip steps. So we all need to be on the same page. We all can learn this stuff, and it's going to make us all a lot smarter. So how do we build this anticipation? It comes into 3 steps that we're going to go through in these classes. All right. First, we got to know what works. If you tell me what the defense is, or you tell me what play is coming, I got to know what works against that. Then I've got to be able to recognize in real time, because this thing isn't played on paper. It's not played on the computer screen. There's actual real people out there moving around, and I've only got about 15 seconds, if we're lucky, to disseminate all that information. Remember how hard it was when I just gave you a bunch of numbers on the screen and asked you to find the higher numbers. So we got to build in some shortcuts. We got to build in some things, the grid, the fact that the numbers go in order. We got to figure out these shortcuts so that we can get ourselves to the answers quicker. And then the third piece, because there's going to be multiple rights sometimes. Okay, multiple right answers. There's multiple options. There's multiple multiple choice, and there's 2 or 3 things that look right. We got to be able to disseminate to get to the right answer, to the best answer faster. All right. So I told you earlier. Okay, we build this kind of concept out, understanding defense and what works, because the defense needs to understand that, the offense has the ball, so they have control of where it goes. So we got to understand where we're going to attack each specific defense. All right. Understand that these are baselines. Okay. These are baselines. We're just building a foundation here. Concepts, they're not concrete. There's always going to be caveats. There's always going to be things. I mean, it could just be, hey, when coach told me not to throw versus this coverage, but that player versus this player, maybe we're going to make that decision to go there. All right. Or because we have various routes going into something, we open up a zone that was once closed. Okay. So again, there could be situations in the game where it's, we shouldn't have thrown that ball into that coverage, but whatever. I mean, it was last play of the game, last, 4th down. We got to make some things happen. Okay. So that's what I mean by this baseline idea. Okay. We're just starting from, if all things are equal, this is what's right. This is what we should do. All right. So key point number 1, what works? So building anticipation, again, to get to the best answer faster, more consistently. So we're going to break this down to the most granular form. No matter if you have 5 guys out in a route, you got some big fancy concept. I like teaching in concepts. I like giving one word to thing that means a lot. Everything boils down to single routes. Okay. So no matter if I've got 5 routes going out, 3 routes going out, 2 routes going out, they're all individual routes at some form. So I need you, and this is going to be a lot of just rote memorization to start. Your homework for tonight and tomorrow, I need you to know this route tree. And again, it doesn't mean that we're going to be utilizing route tree in our vernacular at Parkview High School. But lots of people do, okay? And you're going to understand the way I teach this by using this route tree in very simple 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're going to be able to utilize that to process faster. And I'll show you how. All right? So I call this the universal route tree. If you were to poll 100 football people, 80% of them would tell you this is the route tree that they know. Are you going to hear other people have different route tree variations? Sure. Again, if you're listening to football on Sundays or Saturdays and you hear somebody say, hey, he ran a 7 route, they're talking about a corner. All right. They say, hey, he ran a 2, right? They're talking about a slant. If he ran a 9, they're talking about a go. So again, there's variations, there's different things. Let's don't get bogged down into that. Let's learn this route tree so that we can speak it as we go through this course. All right. Now, there's a few clues to help you learn this. What are some things that you notice? There's two very obvious things that you should notice kind of as you look at the way the route trees break down that can help you kind of memorize this quicker and categorize it.
Every other number is an outside route, and every odd number is an outside route. Every even number is an
There you
outside
go. That's one easy way to start right there. My odds break out, my evens break in, and then the second easy thing is from low to high, right? From the low numbers, it's short, and from the high numbers, it's deep. Okay, so 0 through 3 is going to be your shorter routes. 7, 8, 9 is your deeper routes. Even routes break in, odd routes break out. Okay. Quick clarification of some of this, just again to help us as we build into these. Again, I need you to memorize those and understand them. But your 0 through 3 are your short routes, right? These are your timing patterns. These are things that will be thrown on your first read, your gifts, your hots, your quick options. You're not gonna progress really high most of the time and throw these on rhythm. You may throw them as a check down every once in a while, but again, that's a caveat. All right. The big thing I want you to think about this is receivers. As we install these, your route, your timing, your steps are so important. I teach 0 through 3 personally on step counts, not yardage, because it's more important that you get into your break at the time that the quarterback's ready to throw, not before, not after. We want to get open late, so to speak. I want to get open early, be waiting on the ball. Ball comes. Now the defense has a chance to rally. Quarterbacks, we don't throw these late. Okay, if we throw these late, they're typically picks. Okay, so again, these are precision routes. These are timing routes. All right, and they're quick. They're going to be out in 1.2 seconds. 4, 5, and 6, these are the opposite of timing routes. Okay, these are going to be your second development routes. These ones are taught more on yardage typically because they're not always going to break at the same point. It's going to depend on what the defense is doing. This is why it's so important that you receivers understand what we're looking at. Because if we're running a 4, which is a curl route, you may have to push a little deeper based on situation, or you may have to push a little deeper based on the coverage, and then your break points and the windows that we look to throw to may open in different areas. If you can anticipate that, you can get to those windows faster. All right, these are typically going to be I call them our read routes. We're looking for windows there. We're going to either start high and work to these, or we're going to start low and work to those. 7, 8, and 9 are typically are going to be our deep routes. Again, they could be first reads depending on the situation and the coverage. They could be third reads. Right. Now, I said earlier that anticipation can make the quarterback's arm stronger. Now, it doesn't physically mean you can throw the ball further, but when we have 7, 8, and 9 routes called, sometimes I see that quarterback sit back and pad and wait on things to get open, and now the guys outrun us. All right, or the ball's going to have to now be in the air longer. There's a rule that I have. It's a pretty basic rule, and I would put it up against anybody who would challenge it. But the longer the ball is in the air, the lower the completion percentage. The longer the ball is in the air, the lower the completion percentage. You just think about it, that just makes perfect sense. Okay, it's more time for the defense to respond to it. It's further to travel, so it's going to be harder to hit our spots, harder for the receiver to focus on it that long. So we need to be great at getting these balls out on time, even if they're the deep routes. Throw him open or throw him with anticipation of being open. Don't always wait on him to get open. Now, there's 2 key terms I want you to see there. One is bang. All right, so this will be important for our understanding. When I term bang, and we only do this with 7, 8, or 9, and really only 8 or 9 most of the time. Some people don't really even run bang 7s. But what bang means, y'all hear me on this. When I say a bang 9, that means we're running a 9 route, but we're throwing it with quick game timing. So we know that ball is going to come out early. I may need to get my head around faster. I may need to break my route off a little bit. With an 8, especially. So when I teach slants, big 8s, and bang 8s, all right, they're on different step counts. All right, so a slant to me is 2 outside steps to break ball out. A big 8 is 4 outside steps, big drop, throw the ball 40 yards downfield. A bang 8 would cut it to a 3rd step. So instead of taking 4 steps, I'm taking the 3rd outside step, and I'm snapping, and I'm looking for that ball right now. So again, when we tag bang to a 7, 8, or 9, that means we're throwing it with quick game timing, and it's going to hit in that intermediate range. You're going to hear me talk a lot about the 18 to 22 yard window. 18 to 22 yards. That's typically that sweet spot in a defense to where we can find some of those intermediate windows, especially with bang timing. Typically, when a ball goes longer than 22 yards, you're going to have to throw it over the defense in order for it to be complete, because that means if it goes 25 to 30 yards, safeties and corners and even linebackers can run underneath it. All right. So this is where this accelerated thinking comes, and this idea that the ball has to come out on good times. All right. So 0 through 3 is our quick game, typically out in 1.2 seconds. 4 to 6 is our intermediate game. That can come out anywhere from 1.8 all the way to 3, depending on when we get there. All right. And our deep game, sometimes those are out at about that 2.83 second mark. All right. But if it's bang, it's going to come out at that 1.2, 1.5 second. Now, why it's important for you to memorize the route tree for me is because this right here is something that I want you to burn in your brain. All right. As we get into these base coverages, and we're going to look at them just on paper first, and then we'll look at how to identify them. But when I ask you what's available versus cover 2, you should be able to look at me and say 2, 4, 6, 7, bang 9. What's available versus cover 2? 2, 4, 6, 7, bang 9. That fast. If you can get that processing, think about how much faster you're processing now than when you look at a whole play. All right. When I say what's available versus cover 4, 0 through 6 and 8. What's available versus cover 3, 0 through 6, bang 8, bang 9 on the hash. All right. So on and so forth. What's available against cover 0? Everything, but quick. It's got to be quick, because I know if it's cover 0, we're expecting pressures. So you can take this right now and start memorizing these, all right, and just converting it to memory, so that as we start to apply it and we start to look at the game film, all right, and we look at the different coverages, before I even give you a play, you can tell me, all right, these routes are available and these are not, based on the cover. I'll definitely upload this so that you can take notes, or you can screenshot, whatever you need to do. So as we start to apply this, so again, we're starting from the route tree, understanding the routes, putting those routes in a basic understanding of what's open versus these base coverages. We're going to be talking about covers 0 to 6 in this presentation. And then we're going to look at it from a basic diagram. It's easy to look at a diagram with a perfect picture and learn that way. What coverage is this?
Cover 2.
Cover 2. Very good. All right. So, but I just want to point out some things as you look through. All right. These yellow areas are the no-throw zones. All right. Again, if you look at kind of where these green areas are, which are what's open, notice that they don't go much higher than 25 yards, and they start to really narrow down. So you see those in this cover 2 window. You see where some weaknesses are in that 18 to 22 yard zone right there. They're in what I call the honey hole, which is over the corner and outside of the safety to the sideline. And there's a big hole right here in the high hole. Right? The high hole is beyond the middle linebacker, but in front and in between the safeties. But notice those things get more narrow as the field gets deeper, meaning that as the ball's in the air longer, these safeties have the ability to hash. All right. So we know based on cover 2 rules, we've got 2 deep safeties who are playing. There's 2 of them. They're playing the halves. They got a lot of ground to cover, so they got to play deep. All right. That opens up some opportunities in between, underneath, and outside over these corners, who we see who are playing low and outside and playing hard cloud coverage. Couple other things in here. We're going to talk about skinny feet versus big bases. So this gets into the demeanor of the defender. So we'll look at, the coverage shell and start with how many safeties they are, but then we need to work our way down and figure out what's their body position telling me. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but just so you understand why we make a big deal of that, the triangle means skinny feet. If I am told to backpedal, am I going to be in a linebacker base, feet planted, ready to come downhill, or am I going to get my feet skinny, or am I going to get my butt all the way to the sideline so I can get back? All right. So I'm in a position that demonstrates what I'm about to do. I'm going backwards. These lines right here under the corners, that represents a big base, because in cover 2, we know the corners are playing outside and low, and they have to protect the flats. They're going to try to collision and deny outside release by the receivers. So we're giving them the demeanor here as we're just in letters and diagrams, so that you know and you can start to apply these rules. So again, yellow, that's with the covered areas. Green, that's our open areas. Triangles mean a back pedal base, skinny feet. All right. Dashes mean wide base, ready for conflict, ready for combat, coming forward. Okay. And then the last thing is notice this red line. Some people call it a contour or a coverage shell. And basically what that means is there's kind of if you draw these lines that connect the 4 dBs, there's typically a shape to them. In cover 2, we talk about Stone Mountain. It's a big rounded hill. Okay. As we get into some other ones like cover 3, we'll talk about an A-frame house, and you'll see kind of what we're talking about. All right. Does that make sense, guys? Going back, we see this is all the routes that are open versus the various covers that we're going to look at. So now let's apply those. All right. This is the shells that we're looking at. So as we're looking at cover 2, and I would encourage you all for homework, as I'm learning these routes, go ahead and start drawing yourself out these pictures. So that you can, and there's nothing better than pen to paper. Pen to paper is more conducive to learning than keyboards and screens, because it's scientifically proven when I have that pen in my hand and I feel that paper, my mind is less distracted because I have to focus on doing that act. Very, very good habits to start carrying a pen and paper around and taking notes and going back through these things. So how many times can you draw this and draw the routes in? Think about how much better you're going to get, all right? So as we see cover 2, we're looking at what's available. Notice in red, also, we learn from colors. Colors stick. So if we take a red pen out, we remember, okay, that's not available. We see that the 0 and the 1 are not available because we've got a corner sitting there in flat responsibility. He's going to jump those things. He's all over it. He's sitting there waiting for it. So the 0 and the 1, the out, whether it's coming from the slant, whether it's coming from the slot, or whether it's coming from number 1. Those routes are not available. I'm not throwing those against cover 2. Okay. Now the 2, the slant is great. Okay. We got a first window right here between the wheel and the corner. And if that wheel were to push underneath quickly, we would have a second window between the mic and the safety. But I would probably encourage, we're only throwing that slant on first step timing. Okay. So it's either in that first window or it's not. Our digs are fantastic. Digs are fantastic versus our curls. Curls are fantastic against cover 2. We can find this window right here between the corner and the wheel. Digs have 2 windows that are available, whether it's the early window or the second window that we can settle in. All right. Our comeback, the 5, again, not available because that corner can sink right underneath it. Okay. And if we have to throw that ball on a line, it's going to be very hard to fit that in. All right. Our 7, that's our favorite route. Okay. The 7 route, that corner route, gets right into that honey hole window right there at that 22-yard mark. And then while the 8 is never available, the big 8 is never available for cover 2, and the big 9 is never available because a big 9 means we're throwing it 35 yards down the field probably, but our bang 9 is. So notice where the bang 9 gets. It's right there into that cover set and into that 18 to 22-yard window. Now there's a little caveat right here. We call this little bang 9 bender from the slot is another great opportunity to hit this window right here in that high hole. And so we're just going to call that a bang 9 as well when we're throwing it to the slot right there and he's running right past the wheel, and we're going to look to throw him inside that wheel right there in front of that free safety so we can hit that high hole. I know I'm going through these fast, but you're going to have these. And I just need you to take tonight and tomorrow to go back through and memorize them. Any questions on cover 2? All right, buzzing on cover 3. All right, cover 3. So again, a base level of understanding about why we call the coverages what we call them is we're telling you how many people are technically deep or playing deep responsibility. In cover 2, we've got 2. All right, the 2 safeties, they got halves. In cover 3, we got 3. We got 1 safety in the middle of the field, and we got 2 corners now. You can't see it, but they have the little triangles by their feet. So we got the safety and the 2 corners who have deep thirds now, not halves. Okay. So again, what's available? Well, there's a little trick that I'll teach you, that anytime a corner has skinny feet, anytime that corner is in a back pedal, and he's got deep responsibility, 0 through 6 is available outside. That's a great tool to have for yourself right there, especially for the quarterback when I'm looking out and I'm not quite sure because maybe they're good at disguise or maybe there's an idiot out there running around, don't know what he's doing. So I can look to one side and see a corner with skinny feet and I got a 0 through 6 with him. That's a safe place to go. All right. That's an easy way to kind of memorize these things too, because you're going to be able to categorize when do the corners have deep responsibility. Well, then I know in those 0 through 6 is available. So in cover 3, 0 through 6 is available. We can hit all these little outbreaking routes. We can hit our slants underneath. We can hit our hitches. Now this 7, which was so nice in cover 2, definitely dead in cover 3. But coach, what if we run a 9 route by 1 and a 7 by 2 and it's open? Then that's a concept breaker. That's your OC scheming that up. There's ways to do that. We're talking about individual routes right now. Okay, we're breaking this down to the granular level. The first thing we need to know is recognizing and understanding what the defense is trying to do. They're playing 3 deep. They're taking away the sidelines and they're taking away the post. They're taking away the big middle. Anytime we got one safety in the middle of the field, we know that the 8 is dead. We're not throwing it. Not even looking at it. All right. So what about the bang 8? This is money. Okay. Where we're going to hit these cover 3s for big touchdowns is the weak spots, which is right in the seams of the defense. When I say the seams of the defense for high school hashes, you're basically just running the hash. Okay, so we got it easy in high school. Now, you go to college hashes and you got to start figuring, okay, +2 from the college hash. You go to pro hashes, you got to say like +6 from pro hashes. High school hashes is right down the hash. So you got an easy landmark. That's their seams. The seams are the spaces in between the 2 deep defenders right there. All right, so in between the corner and the free safety on the left side right here, and in between the corner and the free safety on the right side. But again, we don't want to throw it deeper than what? 22 yards. Once we throw that thing 25, 26, 27 yards, then we're going to have conversion. So we got to throw these things with bang timing when we're looking at the 8 or the 9 from the hash. So what's open versus cover 3? I've got a soft corner, 0 through 6. All right, 0 through 6. Got a soft corner, 7's not available. I got a post safety. I got a safety in the middle of the field. We never throw an 8, but we have our hashes. We have our seams. So we're going to throw a bang 8 to number 1. You're going to break it deeper than a slant, but shorter than a post, and it's got to be out on time. And we're going to throw a bang 9, not a deep 9, but a bang 9 to my slot receiver. And we'll strike the band up. Cover 4, all right? So again, 4 deep, but there's a caveat here. All right, unless we're playing prevent, true cover 4, which that's only in certain situations. Notice what changes between cover 4 and cover 2. Who's got the skinny feet now? It's the corners. They're getting deep, all right? Who's got the big base now? It's the safeties. So we'll see in cover 2, those safeties are going to be a little deeper. They're going to have skinny feet, and they're going to be ready to get back because they got that deep half responsibility all the way to the sideline. Well, now they're protected by the corners. Well, if they've got 4 deep, they would have a very light box, and we'd run the ball all day. So now these safeties are put in a tough spot to where they're going to have run support. Like the corners had in cover 2, now the safeties have to help with run support. You got the Will and the Sam who got to get all the way out to the flats. So these safeties are going to come down and help with box support depending on how the defense coordinator wires it up. So what I want to see or what I want to think about is the safety's going to be down a little bit, and we'll talk about depth and leverage and eyes and all that thing in our second talk. But we'll see those safeties come down a bit. They're still deep. They're gonna read the play and get back or match the route depending on what transpires. But they can be influenced up. Okay, so that's why we put the 8 as available. It's a big shot opportunity depending on the situation and the route combination. So corners have skinny feet. They got back. We already know right now 0 through 6 is available. 0 through 6 is available. Corners are going back. 7's not. 7 route is not available. All right. But there is a potential for the 8 to come available if we either play action or have a route that pulls that safety down and we can hit him for the big touchdown. Okay, and 9s aren't available because we're not running a 9 route or a bang 9 into a soft corner. All right, moving into some of our man coverages. Cover 1, 1 deep, 1 post safety. He's back there, and you'll hear me say post safety. I'm saying all that the post right there in the middle of the field. All right. So we got 1 safety in the middle of the field. So we know right now, we've already said, if there's a safety in the middle of the field, we are never throwing a 8 route. But technically with man coverage, any route can come open other than that 8 where the safety is going to sit there and sit on it. Now notice the word we put with it. We put quick. Because when we recognize man coverage in 1 high, we know that there are more people available to rush the quarterback. All right? A little quick math. How many offensive linemen are there? There's 5. All right? How many eligible receivers can go out in a route if the defense is going to be sound and mark them all up? There are 5. All right? There are 5. All right? So now we have to deduce, because there's 11 people on the field, we have to deduce how many safeties are there. So if there's 5 people covering the route, all right, and there's 1 safety high, that's 6, how many are available to rush us to get to 11? 5. All right, 5. So that means every lineman is going to be on an island. Every lineman is going to be on an island. So we have to know, as the quarterback, right, and just as everybody on the field, if we see cover 1 man and we know that it's man, there's a potential that the ball is going to have to come out faster. So as a defender, I know that ball should come out faster. As a receiver, I know that ball should come out faster. So we need to be playing ahead of the game right there and understanding those things on both sides of the ball. All right, so we say everything but 8 is available, but it needs to happen quick. It needs to happen with urgency. So when I think about the 4, 5, and 6 route, sometimes those may not be my best option pre-snap. That's going to be something I might get to later if I have to scramble or our protection holds up. The 0 through 3 is great, and the 7 and the 9 are also good because we can throw those to space. I can throw those routes early and let my receiver run to it. I can't really throw the 4, 5, and 6 early. However, if we do have protection that holds up, those routes can get open as well because it's man covered. All right. So now we got cover 0. Nobody's back. Same math. 5 eligible receivers. They got to cover with 5. So that leaves how many left if there's no safeties to rush? 6. So they can potentially bring 6, and we have 5 to block. That means we're down a man. So we better understand that when we get into our protection, our football IQ of the box and protections and things like that. We're going to talk about some ways that we have to combat cover 0. All right? So we know now that word is quick again, but it's with an exclamation point. These balls have to come out now. Otherwise, we're going to be taking sacks. Otherwise, we're going to be throwing balls up into bad spaces. All right? So we got to even accelerate our mind even more. We have 4, 5, and 6 that are available because they can get open, but 9 times out of 10, if you're waiting on a 4, 5, and 6 route to get open against cover 0, you're probably going to be on your back, okay? So we're really thinking 0 through 3. We're really thinking 7 and 9, and we can sometimes get that 8 up where you can run to it. But for simple teaching, it's all open. We just got to know. There's nobody back there. Pressure's coming. We know it. They're telling us, all right? Cover 5. All right, for simplicity, I use cover 5 to talk about man 2. So think about it like there's 5 routes that have to be covered. I've got 5 people on it, but now we also have coverage behind it. So if 5 routes are being covered and 2 people are deep, how many people are left to rush? 5 routes covered plus 2, what gets me to 11? 4. So while the defense has lots of coverage and it's going to be harder to get open, we also understand now that we can have patience, and where we weren't really able to see those 4, 5s, and 6 earlier versus man coverage, now they can be great assets to us versus man 2. All right. We've got 2 safeties who aren't playing halves. All right. They are able to watch the quarterback and really adjust to the ball. So we're not going to throw this ball up in the middle of the field. That's a pick. Okay, man 2, ball in the middle of the field, other team's got it. We're not going to throw this ball deep down the sideline either because those safeties can still get there. All right, so we're going to go 0 through 7 is our most available routes here. Maybe it'll throw a bang 9, but I'll talk about as we get deeper into coverage why bang 9 probably is not good against cover 2 as well, or man 2. Let's see if we can get there actually. What would if I'm playing cover 0 and I'm a DB, would I tend to play tighter or looser man?
Tighter?
Tighter with cover 0? Do you have any support to help you on your back end? No, right? So we tend to see a little looser coverage with cover 0 because you don't want to get beat for the big 80-yard touchdown. So you're going to give yourself time to play maybe some type of catch coverage, something where you can run, something where you don't let somebody just beat you off line of scrimmage and go. But when we have man 2, where that DB, that corner, that outside backer may have been playing a little looser in 0 with no support in cover 2, he's probably going to play a little or man 2, cover 5, he's going to play a little tighter. Why? Because he has what behind him? Protection. He's got those 2 safeties protecting their backside. That they support. Good, Robert. That's exactly what, kind of we should start connecting some dots here. All right. Cover 6, I'm going to go through this one quick. I throw this in there just to give you some idea of nuance, and this is an introduction to combo coverage, all right? Defenses can split the field in half and play one coverage on one side and one coverage on the other. Sometimes they can play zone and man. Sometimes they can play 2 versions of zone. So when we say cover 6, universally, cover 6 typically means that you're going to play cover 2 to the boundary, to the short side of the field. Helps that safety on the short side because he's got less room to cover. And you're going to play cover 4 to the field side. So there's nothing new to learn here in terms of what works. I just say, okay, that's my cover 2 side over here. 2, 4, 6, 7, bang 9's available. And that's my cover 4 side over here. 0, 2, 6, and 8's available. Let's roll. And now I just got to break it down. I got to recognize, and we'll get in again. We'll get into how we recognize, because there's 2 safeties back there. How do I know which is which? Well, we're going to look at depth. We're going to look at leverage. We're going to look at demeanor of both the safeties and the corners and how they're playing, and they'll tell us the answers to the test. You hear this with a lot of pro quarterbacks, guys, the great ones. It's universal. It's universal. The one that truly end up playing a sustained amount of time, okay, are the ones that start to get it up here. The one that just have the raw athletic ability and can pop for a little bit, they tend to not last. So there's something all these greats have had in common, is that they have figured this out, whether they have been taught it or whether they have learned to teach it to themselves this way. They have a way of processing, and it follows this blueprint that you're learning today, some of you in 6th grade. That's why it's important for me to start teaching this all the way through our program, because my goal, one of my biggest goals when I got here and when I started teaching this, I said, this is going to be something that I will teach all the way through my programs to the 5th and 6th graders. By the time I get a cycle of those guys who are in 9th grade who come in knowing this, we will have the smartest football team in the country. Not if, we will. We will have the smartest football team in the country, because this isn't just for quarterbacks, it's for everyone. And this is just scratching the surface of it. So when you really start figuring things out, you realize you don't have to be perfect all the time, but you have to be quick and decisive. Dude, does that apply to a linebacker? Does that apply to a defensive end? Does that apply to a running back? Does that apply to a receiver? Does that apply to a safety? You bet it. You bet it. Don't always have to be perfect, but I need to be quick, and I need to be decisive, and I need to trust what I've learned. And sometimes you're going to do the right thing, the bad things happen. Sometimes you're going to be wrong, and that's okay too. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting to the best answer faster, consistently. Not perfectly, consistently. Do it enough times over a course of a game, over a course of a season, over a course of a career, and you're going to be pretty darn good. So you'll see a lot of the QBIQ stuff come up. I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due. And if anybody wants some of these resources, I can help you get them for a discount. And I have some of these that I'll be pulling out, and we'll be utilizing. One thing that he built with this, not only a great curriculum and a way to teach it and a way to practice it, but he built these flashcards that help you kind of engage and go through some of these things, and we'll go through the variations of those. So these are 2 illustrations of it, and I just want you to look. You got the defense on one side, and you got the route distribution on the left side. So just from what you've learned now, first off, what coverage?
Cover 2.
Can somebody tell me quickly what's available versus cover 2? 2, 4, 6, 7, bang 9. 2, 4, 6, 7, bang 9. So now as I look at this right now and I'm walking up to the line, what routes are available? Or what routes are not available? 8,
9,
1, and 3. Right? So as good as it is to, honestly, where the real decision making starts to speed up is not necessarily about knowing what's available. It's about deducing and eliminating things that aren't. So quarterback, if I'm walking to the line right here, am I really even thinking about the right side now?
No, sir.
Am I thinking about throwing that one route?
No.
So let me ask you this. How fast does that 4 route open?
It develops.
It develops, right? So taking the snap, should I just look at that 4 route and wait on it to develop?
No, sir.
No, I'm going to swing my eyes to the route to the right, or I'm going to take a quick set and put my eyes to the 1 just to influence the defense and reset my feet and throw with anticipation that 4 route as a perfect strike right into the window that's going to open up. Either I look to the right and I pull the defenders that way and it's going to be open, or I look to the flats and I pull the defenders that way and I throw it open. I think back to when I was watching Peyton Manning growing up, and I would be like, man, how does he get to his fourth read in 2 seconds, process all that information, and then throw an accurate ball after going through all that? Well, I wasn't looking at it correctly. He wasn't going through 4 reads. He was deducing to 2 and putting his eyes and knowing where he needed to be when he needed to be there. And it looked like he was going through all that to me, to the commentators, to the defense. But he knew in the back of his mind, I'm moving and I'm manipulating the defense to get the ball where I know it's got to go in the only place that it can. Same route structure. New coverage. What's his coverage?
3.
For 3. All right. So now what's available versus cover 3?
0, 1, 2.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bang 8, and bang 9 on the hash.
Very good. As I look at the card on the left, which one can I X out right now?
8.
The 8. So a minute ago, everything was X but the 4, and now everything's open but the 8. So how do I know where to go with the football? I've got 3 right answers, guys. Am I just going to go out there and throw it, whichever one I think? This is where situational thinking will come in. If I told you it was 3rd and 1, where would Coach want you to go with the ball right now?
The 1.
1.
The 1. I would want my quarterback to quicken his feet up, and I would also want my slot to be thinking, what? It's 3rd and 1. It's cover 3.
Look quickly.
Get your head around, buddy. Don't let it hit you in the back. All right? Now, what if it's 3rd and 12?
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Which one are you going to start with, Greg?
I'm going to start with the 3.
Why?
Because that's the one-on-one, and the 4 has to develop.
All right. Well, it's not necessarily the one-on-one, but the second part is right. If you start with the 4 and then work back to the 3, what did we say about 0 through 3 routes? They have to be thrown on.
They have to be thrown in a quick game.
They got to be thrown on time. So can I start with the 4 and then go to the 3 and still throw the 3 on time?
Yes, sir.
I can't start with the 4, then go to the 3, but I can go to the 3.
Yeah, you go to the 3, go to the 4.
And then go to the 4.
Sir.
That's thinking, guys. That's thinking. Instead of giving you schemes, I say it like this. I could give you schemes, cut the fish up, and serve it to you. And after we get about 4 or 5 plays in, that stuff's going to get convoluted because I've got to tell you a lot for every play to do this. But if I can download this, I can just start giving you plays and you tell me what to do based on these understandings. So instead of feeding you fish, I'm going to teach you how to fish. So that we got a bunch of guys out there playing with anticipation who are confident in their assignment, who are making the right decision or the best decision faster, more consistently. Because here's the deal, man. It doesn't matter how smart these coaches are. None of us scored a touchdown in a long, long time. None of us have caught a ball. None of us have made a tackle. At the end of the day, you got to do it. All right? And I want a bunch of dudes out there thinking for themselves within the parameters of what we put in than a bunch of guys out there being robots and not knowing what to do when crap breaks down because it's going to break down. All right? So that's it for today. Today was all about what works. So you got homework. And we're going to have some ways to test this as we get into it, all right? So we'll have a little fun with it. Today was just me kind of giving you a bunch of this memorization stuff. You need to go home and memorize it. When I come back tomorrow, I want to hear 2, 4, 6, 7, bang 9. That's what's open against cover 2. 0 through 6, bang 8, bang 9 on the hash. That's what's open against cover 3. 0 through 6 and 8, that's 4. What if it's cover 0? Coach, everything, quit. All right. And knowing where these defenses are. Again, you've got the tools in front of you. Go back, take screenshots of it, draw it out. Yellow means it's covered. Green means it's available. The contour of the defense, right? We see cover 3 looks like a TP. All right. A-frame. Cover 2. That's a big old mountain, big old hill, stone mountain. All right. Cover 4. We've got a kind of flatter contour. We've got those corners back deep. All right. And then we get into the 0s and the 6s and stuff. Any questions? All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Y'all enjoy the rest of your night. I see my guys in first.